You're the Eagles right now. The Eagles have the number one pick. Somehow you made a trade with the Titans and they
Oh,
didn't
if the
protect.
Eagles had the number one pick?
Yeah, like
Oh,
who would just be your this is the dude who
with the
take.
current team that we have right now
Yeah.
still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
it's
So
day
we're
one.
just
Yeah.
okay. So I'd probably just say, oh, how are we doing? Welcome back to the Schlabcast.
The Schlabcast is alive and well with a draft just around the corner. We're like 30 some days away.
Yeah, just about. Andy and Caleb here. We're missing Jeff, but
33 days.
he'll be back.
Jeff will be back. He's in Utah hanging with T-Pain.
That's right. That's right.
And you think, no way, but way.
Building
He,
stages for T-Pain,
yeah,
setting up for T-Pain
yeah.
and others.
Also hanging out, becoming best friends. As-
So hope you're doing well, Jeff. Caleb and I will be delving into, we'll just do some NFL, the latest news, and we're going to go over some of the NFL draft.
You really think this is like a good quarterback class? Just, is it a good one?
From what I've been reading and hearing and everything, I think it's kind of on the average side.
I think it's kind of poopy. I don't really know exactly what year to compare it to. I'd have to go back and look a little bit on just like the underwhelming side. But if the decision was like Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward, I'd just be like, oh, either trade back or really just go after the best player there was in the draft. But if you're hurting for a quarterback, not the time.
So,
Maybe it is a good time to sign Jameis Winston.
yeah, if you're not sure, it might be, like you said, move back, get one of the later mid-round quarterbacks. I've been seeing things like pairing up the first two picks, especially if you're in like one of the early picks. Are you going to take Cam Ward and maybe one of the lesser pass rushers? Or maybe you get like the top pass rusher and Abdul Carter, and then you get one of the other quarterbacks that's not Cam Ward. If you don't think that they're that far off, and just
Because
think,
there's like some of the dudes like down the list, Jackson Dart and Will Howard. Those guys I feel like are like just as good, if not a little bit better. I don't really remember ever just feeling like, man, Cam Ward stole the week in college football. Like it just didn't happen really at all last year.
I totally get what you're saying. It kind of just feels like at this point, like a month away, just the fact that the consensus, he's just being pushed up the closer it gets.
Yeah. I've seen Raiders passing on quarterback and just going Ashton Gentry and other skill players even.
Especially since they just made the trade for Geno.
Mhm.
It gives them a little bit more time.
I think that trade is awesome. And I think putting him back with Pete Carroll is equally awesome. So we'll see what they're like. Still going to be a hard division to, push through and make some headway, but I dig it.
The Raiders finally have a legitimate starting quarterback. Nothing
Mhm.
crazy, but I feel like for the past couple of years, they didn't even have that, a competent quarterback.
It hasn't felt like that's a position that's been covered since Carr broke his ankle. I'm trying to remember what year that was. I want to say it was like 2017, but he was fine until then. And then once he broke his ankle, that was kind of it for the like Raiders. Just any momentum really they had, they've just been kind of stalling ever since. And then before that, Jeff Garcia. Who knows?
Jeff Garcia. Hey, he had some success in the Eagles.
Yeah, he played everywhere. I think he was a Niner too, and
Oh yeah, Niners for a while, but he had like this little playoff run for the Eagles.
but no shrines were made for him, so they couldn't
No, no,
really
no.
win. Yeah,
It
but
never got to that point. No. Yeah. See,
so if you had the number one pick right now, who would you take? Like you just have the same team you have. You're not like hurting for a quarterback.
if I'm the Titans, yeah. See, the thing is,
No, no.
like,
If you're the Eagles right now, the Eagles have the number one pick. Somehow you made a trade with the Titans and they
oh,
didn't
if the
protect.
Eagles had the number one pick,
Yeah, like
oh,
who would just be your this is the dude who
with the
take.
current team that we have right now,
Yeah,
still.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
it's
So
day
we're
one.
just
Yeah.
okay. So I'd probably just say Travis Hunter, just because I love that guy.
Dude, yeah, man. Me
I
too.
I just think
Almost.
he's unique, you
Mhm.
know. So, but if I think about it more, I think the probably the player would be Abdul Carter would help the Eagles more because we need that we're losing all our edge rushers. He's like the consensus number one edge. I think he would actually help us more, But,
Hmm.
the thought of drafting Travis is just really enticing. But it's like, where would I put him? He would be the receiver with AJ, with Devontae, and then he could play corner too, I guess.
I almost want to see him play corner first before he gets kind of banged up and just see what like his kind of peak athleticism is right now with being on the defensive side because he is just like a total ball hawk. I almost would want to take him too. Although I do like the Michigan defensive tackle. Yeah, Mason Graham, that is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, he's supposed to be really good.
From watching just like his highlights and just film stuff they're showing and whatnot, he looks like a freaking beast. I would consider him too. I think Abdul's just the best player though, especially the end of the season. He really just started making a name for himself and did fantastic in the bowl games.
Yeah, and he flashes. He looks like Micah, especially in that Penn State uniform.
Yeah, oh dude, 6'3", like 250, totally. Yeah, and
Yeah,
in the
it's
pen.
like it looks like Micah 2.0.
Yeah, for real. Just don't make a podcast. There's no point. If you're a pro athlete, just do that. Like everyone's gonna just pay attention to you anyway. You
True.
don't have to you don't have to call out how DeMarcus Lawrence was actually a cancer or whatever for the entire team, and that's why we lost the Packers game. I don't know. That was fucking wild.
What would you do? So
I'd
you'd say one of those
probably
two?
probably Carter. Really, I think Mason Graham's pretty good. Personally, I think an area that is not talked about too much that the Cowboys used to rely on as a strength that is gone is tight end. And there is a really good tight end in this draft. Also out of Penn State is Tyler Warren. And I think he'd be awesome. I think he could also do a little bit of running as a fullback. And he's just kind of a big dude. He's like 6'5" or 6'6". He could definitely just block just because he's that big. So if the Cowboys were to trade back maybe like a spot or two because he's still just hanging right there, would not be upset with that pick too. Because we used to always just tight end was a real thing that we had depth with even too. And I know that the Cowboys years ago wanted Dallas Goddard, and the Eagles
Hmm.
I think traded up in front of Dallas to take him.
The other tight end out of Michigan, I think he's also going to be good too. They say Colston Loveland. He could possibly be up there with Warren, but I hear good things about both. Why do you think the Cowboys kind of strayed away from tight end position? Just in your
I
opinion,
so
coaching? Is it? Or, I mean, the coaches, or is it?
I mean we've drafted well, so it's not like.
Although, yeah, you have Jake Ferguson though. I mean, do you? Yeah, I don't really
But
think you.
he just keeps getting kind of like ticky-tack injuries that are really slowing him up. We've had Ferguson, and then Schoonmaker's the other guy that is around. But
Yeah,
right after Witten, it was I'm just trying to remember his name, and we end up and he was fine, but we got rid of him and he went over to the Chargers and ended up being fine for a couple years with them too. But it just hasn't ever gotten back up to obviously where that Winton level was. But having Winton there, he just was such a good like player coach that all these other dudes just learned his kind of skill set on being able to find pockets off of man coverage and everything, and just his work ethic. And I think we just stray away from that. But I also give no credit to Mike McCarthy of ever doing anything well. So we could just blame him, and I'd be fine with. One thing I was thinking of is, and we could actually just save this for, we'll save it for the end. I got a little fun thing too,
Oh,
because since
okay.
around the draft.
Okay. Oh, I'm down. Anything else we want to do specifically about the draft? I guess our overall thoughts realistically, though, how it's going to go down right now. The number one pick for the Titans. I've been seeing a lot of things that said, like, if you put Cam Ward and Shador in last year's, they would probably be behind all of them in the first round, basically. So behind
Yeah.
McCarthy, Penix, and May.
I would agree with that. Yeah. They don't have like considerable arm strength in my opinion. It's fine. They're like athletic dudes. But what you're really saying is we think they'll be Lamar Jackson. But everyone says that about all these running dudes, and it just doesn't, way less guys actually turn out that way than you think.
Yeah.
So
And Cam Ward, though, I think specifically is not even really that kind of athlete that Lamar is. I think that's probably more like Milrow, that Alabama guy.
yeah, man,
But
dude, that guy he did a lot of disservice to himself this season. He did not play well.
yeah, throwing he's got to improve. Athlete though he is for sure. But if you are the Titans then, number one pick realistically, knowing what you know, having Will Levis right now as your starter, would you take Cam Ward or would you just go somewhere else? I actually even saw on the news recently it looked like they were flirting with like Tannehill and possibly Kirk Cousins. What would you do? Would you
Oh,
just skip the quarterback then?
let me pull up Titans depth chart just to see what the other positions look like real quick. Okay, so it's Will Levis, and then Brandon Allen.
Yikes.
Yeah, that guy played for like Arkansas a few years ago. Anyway, skill position wise, they're not bad. Tony Pollard, Ridley Burks. The line is pretty weak. The offensive line, the defensive line. I don't know any of these guys. So I almost feel like I don't like the quarterbacks enough to just want to take Abdul Carter. Just to know that I have a probably a franchise guy who's going to be there for 8 or 9 years and play at a pretty good level.
So you take an Abdul Carter.
Yeah, probably. They don't have that bad of a secondary. Linebackers are a little thin. I don't know if I would take any offensive linemen over Abdul, so probably Abdul. And then after that, I would trade, and then I would take Cam Ward. Try to get some capital instead. See if someone else wants to trade up for Abdul that much or something.
Oh, you mean the second option is you would trade.
Yeah, I
Tr
would.
trade
I really don't like the quarterback class.
trade
Just
back. Yeah, I agree. I think I would trade back maybe to two or three to then ensure that I get Abdul or Travis Hunter, and then give me
I
more
don't.
picks.
I don't see Cleveland trading up, but I could see New York or New England wanting to trade up, especially New England to try and get some extra defensive line help. Or maybe they really like someone on the offensive line and just want to protect Drake May. And
True.
4-1 isn't too crazy.
New England, they honestly just want two quarterbacks to go before them.
Yeah, that either that or someone that is just weren't seen coming.
Regardless of like how we feel right now, though, I think everything is pointing to Cam Ward being first. I think that the domino is really where is Shador gonna go? If the Browns right now, it looks like they're not as interested. It looks like the Giants could take him at three. Browns have oh, duh, they traded for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Which
And
which I feel like you should play him. He should start.
I mean, if you just traded for him, I guess, yeah. But I don't
Who,
think much of him.
you're not playing Deshaun.
Oh,
Like that guy's not gonna be healthy to play.
and
So
nobody
he's your starter.
and nobody wants to see
Just
him
roll
play.
with Kenny. Yeah. Build up the rest of the team because the rest of the team's pretty solid. And really, if you're gonna have a high pick every round, and you're gonna get one of those other quarterbacks that are just as good.
You could pair Abdul Carter with Miles Garrett.
Exactly. Emily Collins.
So, okay, they could. Well, the Giants, they just signed Jameis Winston. Recording this on what Saturday, March 22nd. They
Yeah.
just signed Jameis. How do we feel about that?
They had to. They needed somebody, and he is serviceable. And honestly, if the Giants just want a little bit of talking points, he will deliver. It's impossible that he doesn't.
Yeah, say what you will about the guy. I love his energy, and he's entertaining as hell.
He is an adventure just on his own, and it's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah, I respect it. I love Jameis. I just wish it wasn't on the Giants. Glad he has a job.
whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, does he see the field much next year?
Depending on if they draft somebody. He's got like I think his max could be up to 16 million.
I mean, that's pretty good.
I know it's pretty good.
Um,
It was like similar, I think, to Daniel
is
Jones.
he? But legitimately, is he better than Tommy DeVito?
I like Jameis
That
more.
pause says a lot.
I, I like Jameis though. The interceptions kill him.
Oh man, one of the best things I ever heard was that that one season that he threw the 30 picks that would be just the best 30 for 30 episode would just be the 30 touchdowns, 30 picks.
That's perfect.
There were like I don't know if it was an official thing or an off book thing, but there were like online sports books that would put up like Jameis Winston will throw a pick before 1:14 Eastern Standard Time, like just yes or no, and you could bet
Oh
on
my
the
God.
if he was going to or not, and it was like down to the minute of like we know that he will have a possession, and there's a good chance that in that first possession he just throws an 8 yard out to
Oh,
nobody, and
yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because everybody knows he'll just chuck it.
Or he just thinks everyone's going to just improvise the exact same way he thinks it's going to happen. So ever since that, was it the national championship? Yeah, no, it was the Rose Bowl game against Oregon when he was with Florida State and they got just
Mhm.
absolutely shelled. That was to me the time where I was like, yeah, I don't know about that guy.
Yeah.
the big moment did not go well for him. In any event, moving on.
So do we think Shador goes in the top three?
No, nah, not in the top three.
So we think they all pass on him?
I think they pass on him because really, if he just didn't, you know, have Dion in his life at all, he's not that great. He just has a lot of
Uh,
notoriety around him.
I just been back and forth with him. I think he's gonna be somewhere like a Teddy Bridgewater type.
Yeah, he has more of that, especially that build. All right, so on FanDuel, Cam Ward is kind of a heavy favorite for number one at minus
Yeah.
750.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like,
And
yeah,
then
that's a
Abdul's 500. Not well, that's insane. But okay. Yeah, then it just starts getting ridiculous. Shador is 40 to 1 to go first. Jackson Dart's 75 to 1, and then Mason Graham is 100 to 1. So it's really just Cam Ward and then maybe Abdul.
hmm
But number two overall pick is Abdul. But
That's
then this
Browns.
is this is odd because you would think it would be kind of a switch then of like, well, it's Abdul, then it's Cameron Ward, but then it's actually Abdul, then
Should
Shador, then Travis, and then Cam Ward. So
maybe because they think Cam Ward's gonna be gone.
yeah, it would just
Yeah.
be like that's actually pretty interesting, and I almost would want to put some money on 15 to 1 that he's number two. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why not?
the Browns have taken so many shots on quarterbacks
Well, Browns could trade back and someone, and that's where, the Giants just, well, I don't know if the Giants would trade up to there, but Jacksonville could.
with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, dude, that guy is going downhill fast. And I don't know if it's the team that's around him or if it's also part of the coaching because they just have an awful coach that is not doing them any favors. Man, he should be much better and should be able to lead that team a little more, but doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, you're probably right. He came in probably a little too overhyped originally when he came in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so all the expectations were really high. And then they also said potentially, I mean, if he did slip, I think Shador is going to be in the top 10. Maybe not two, but I think
Oh
he'll be
yeah,
top
I
10.
I would say he's in the top 10. I don't know if
May-
I
may-
can get those odds yet. Still a little
Maybe,
ways out.
maybe the Jets, if they did sign Fields, but it's not like they're sold on him. And then maybe the Saints at like nine, it says, if the Saints, or maybe the Saints move up because who do they have? Derek Carr is
Yeah,
iffy to
Derek.
come back. And they have Spencer Rattler.
Spencer Rattler. The Saints are interesting. The Jets would make sense to move up to two, especially if they don't have to pay as much to go to number one. But you would need to give up quite a bit on that. Let's see, the number two on the trade chart. Number two is a 2,600 point pick. Number seven is a 1,500. So that would be that plus
Like a
Dude,
second,
it would definitely be a second. It'd
and then
have to
like
be a
a
high
mid,
second. And then, well, it'd probably have to be like next year's second as well, or like next year's third and conditional fifth or something. I don't know. But the first three picks, according to the, very unscientific draft pick value chart that Jimmy Johnson made up a long time ago, it really values the first three picks. So you got to give up a ton for that, right? Which makes sense. I mean, it is like, the best of an entire football year. So,
I wish I could go
but
back and
I hate trading up in the first round
yeah.
personally.
This is where to me it comes back to like those times last year and especially those end of the season games where you were already losing team and you happen to win a couple of those games at the end. It's like these come back to bite you. Now you're picking like 9, 10, 11 when you probably could
Mhm.
have been picking 3, 4, 5, and now you're having to trade multiple picks.
The last time we traded back, I know when for sure we did. I just don't remember if we did it more
We,
recently, but we
we
don't have a good history of trading up. I know that one of the more recent times when we traded up in the first round, we took Maurice Claiborne, and I was
mm,
furious. And then, but one of the last times we traded back in the first round, we took Travis Frederick, and it was like, hell yeah.
you actually traded back with us too.
Was that the Micah Devontae?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So that
That was it
did
worked
we
out for
trade up
both.
for that one?
We traded up with you guys ahead of the Giants.
Okay, so yeah, that's another one. We
So
traded back and got Micah, and it obviously
yeah,
worked out for you guys too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one time we kind of worked together to screw over the Giants, and then they had to move back, and then they had to get Kadarius Toney as their fallback wide receiver.
Suckers. Okay, so I found this. It was literally back-to-back years. In 2012, we traded up from Maurice Claiborne and gave up a second round, which ended up being Alshon Jeffrey. And then the very next year, we traded back. We traded with San Francisco and got Frederick. Things we traded back for. San Francisco took Eric Reed, and then we got a third round from them and took Terrence Williams, who was a
There you go.
fine
There.
receiver for a couple years in the mid 2000s. So
It looks like recent history has shown that trading back has been good for you guys.
personally, I would much rather trade back in the first round than trade up.
Especially in this draft, I'm hearing like once it gets like to the 15s, they said all the numbers start to blend in a little bit. Like 15 is not that much different from 30 and things like that. So trading back is a good idea.
Yeah.
Have more targets, more chances at hitting.
So before we run out of time, really, it could be viewed as two ways. I don't really know if there's any guys in this draft that like have a lot of baggage coming with them or anything. I just haven't seen it, but we're also enough time out where it's not happened yet. Have you heard anything? Is
I
there
I
anyone like,
I've heard a couple things about a couple defensive players is more like attitude issues and like
okay,
uncoachable for some edge rushers in the
are they
teens
like high
maybe.
picks or like just there
It
are
could
dudes?
a couple like within the teen, they're like first round, mid to late first round.
Okay.
Like have
I just haven't heard too many.
yeah.
But on the flip side of it, I guess, since we don't have any like true problem makers, who would just be the award winner for dude you just want to kind of hang out and party with? We'll just call it the Laramie Tunsil Award. It's draft season. That guy has one of the most memorable draft moments of my entire life.
How
And I'm
can you
so glad
forget?
that you,
How can
Jeff,
you
and I were able to
how
hang
can
for that draft because that was
yeah.
so amazing. They kept showing
Yeah.
that video on
You couldn't make it up. You just couldn't make it up. And the timing
uh,
of it, the way they released it right like hours
yeah.
before or whatever.
So, with that said, are there any dudes that have come across where you're like, man, I would just like want to hang out with that guy. That just seems like an awesome dude anyway.
I mean, honestly, we mentioned one of them already, but Jameis Winston.
Okay. I was talking more this draft coming up, but yeah,
Oh, you mean like rookies?
yeah, the rookie, like who would be your Laramie Tunsil? Because it was going to be like, who's the Laramie Tunsil? We think he's going to fuck it up like right on draft day award, but instead, like, who's the Laramie Tunsil? I'd go to a party with him. This might be kind of fun.
Oh, oh, actually, I do have one.
Okay.
Uh, so have you been following the draft and like a lot of
I,
the?
I've been following more the just offensive and defensive line guys in the draft more than anything.
Okay,
It's because I really want them to go after both sides of the ball like that, but I know they're not going to.
this literally just came to my head instantly because his face just popped into my head. He's a running back for Arizona State. Do you know who he is?
Scatabo?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't know. I just
Uh,
like just the way he plays. He just seems like he runs with his hair on fire.
and he went to
Compact dude,
Arizona
just
State. He's probably
breaking
crazy.
tackles.
Yeah. Mine would be Jihad Campbell, Alabama
Oh, the
linebacker.
linebacker.
Yeah. That guy seems like he's just a menace. He'd be
Oh
a lot of
shit.
fun, but
See,
uh,
I've seen just some highlights, but I haven't really seen like the personality or like the interview or anything like that kind of.
he
But
wouldn't. So when they do come out with, if there's
Mhm.
a chance to be drafted in the top 10 odds, I'd love to see where he falls in that because I think he's one of those guys that sneaks into like number 8 or number 9. And he's just gonna keep rising up a little bit as it keeps going. Because I feel like when this all started, end of January roughly, he was like a second round pick more people were talking about, but he's like a mid round pick, mid first round pick,
no, for
high.
sure, for
So
sure. Alabama pedigree too. Like, yeah, he's gonna go for sure.
it might
Yeah.
it might have been Alabama off year, but I blame the offense way more than I blame the defense in that. And I think he was great. It looks like he's a dude that just is gonna hit, incredibly hard. I don't want him to go somewhere stupid like Atlanta and fade away.
They'll
I'd be
just
happy with Dallas even taking him at 12.
It's okay.
Uh,
Atlanta won't. They're just gonna take another offensive skill position. You know, Drake London, Bijan, Kyle Pitts. You know, they did
we
Penix, but
we messed up. They're the ones that are going to trade up to number two for Travis. Sell everything. Anyway, yeah,
God,
do you
but
have anything else to
how are you feeling realistically right now about the Cowboys pick though? Your pick 11, Eagles at 32. Honestly, I think they're just gonna. I think it's a good chance they're just gonna trade out to a team that wants to get the quarterback on the fifth year, like maybe even a dart or something like that. So I don't think it's gonna be crazy. But Cowboys at 11, that's practically a top 10 pick. What do you think right there?
we're at 12.
Oh, my bad. My bad. 12.
I think they should go best player available. I don't like Ashton Gentry. And people can hate on my opinion about it, but I'm not going to draft a guy who played on a blue field.
I know you
His
mentioned that.
competition was not the same as other people. So he's already been ran into the ground a little bit, and we'll be able to run just fine. He's not going to make or break the offense quite like how just that actual scheming will. Plus, I think there's other dudes that we can draft in the second round that are going to be just as fine. It's kind of a deep running back class in the
It
long
is.
run.
It is a
So
really deep one, actually.
I don't think they need to, blow their load on that. I would say like I said just now, I would take Jihad if he was, just best player available at that spot, especially if we could just trade back a couple spots, like with, I don't know, like Denver or someone like Miami and take him. I think taking Tyler Warren would be totally fine as well. I just don't know. Best player available usually for the mid round like that. Ideally, if I'm the GM, I'm trying to convince Jerry just to trade back. Let's try to get some more picks. So,
If you had
um,
the opportunity to trade crazy scenario into the top three, would you give up those picks for either of those players?
um, nah.
Nah.
The only one that would I would even consider is Abdul, but he's not. It's
Abdul
just
and Micah.
that it would just be so. We'd have to be in a win now situation. We don't have the players on the offensive line or in a win now situation. We
True.
really need to build that back up, especially with dudes retiring or leaving over the past 2 or 3 seasons. It's just not the same as it was over the past 10 years, which is a shame. But they've proven they can draft offensive linemen, so hopefully they do it again.
Yep. All right. Well, that's a Schlabcast, guys.